So when law schools receive your law school application, it is divided into two parts. So the Credential Assembly Services, better known as CAS Report, and your electronic application, often referred to as your EAP. Those are the two parts of basically your application in total. So I'll discuss your application materials based on where they're found in the CAS Report or in the EAP. I'm going to start by discussing the CAS report, namely because that's the part of your application that admissions officers will typically review first. All right, so the CAS report. This is the file that contains your hard factors again, your LSAT score and your GPA, but it also contains some soft factors. It contains a writing sample that is completed as a part of your LSAT exam, as well as your letters of recommendation that professors or others write on your behalf. So essentially everything that someone other than you has to say about you is contained in this file. The information found here is often considered a bit more objective than what's found in the EAP because it comes from people other than you. There are a few key things to know when it comes to each of these documents and how to really leverage them or how they're actually reviewed by an admissions committee. So first, your LSAT score sheet is a list of all the LSAT scores in the order in which you receive them. It is something that schools use to figure out what your LSAT score is. It will also indicate if you were absent or cancel an LSAT score. If you take the LSAT multiple times, do know that most schools are going to put the most weight on your highest score. So oftentimes that's the only score that matters. But there are some schools in some instances where your scores will be average. So that is something to keep in mind. Also, if there is a 4-point or more difference between your lowest LSAT score and your highest LSAT score, that is usually viewed as an irregularity and will likely cause admissions officers to raise an eyebrow. So if you have more than a 4-point or more difference in your highest LSAT score and your lowest LSAT score, please make sure to write an addendum to explain that discrepancy, what you attribute that change in your score to. If not, schools will really question, or most likely will question what's going on there. Next, know that your transcripts from every school you attend must be submitted when you're applying to law school. So admissions committees are going to be able to see what you majored in, what sorts of classes you took, how easy or hard your classes were, whether there was an upward or downward trend in your grades, and whether you withdrew from a lot of classes or had a really bad semester at any point. Worth noting, if you were a STEM major, then it's often expected that your GPA will be a bit lower than a school's median, so don't be discouraged by that. Also know that STEM majors are in high demand by law schools right now, so I just want to throw that out in case any of you were STEM majors. Also, your graduate degree, if you get a graduate degree, know that law schools will also see and look at those transcripts too. But a graduate GPA is never used in lieu of an undergraduate GPA. I think that sometimes students think that getting a graduate degree is a good way to offset an undergraduate GPA. But the truth is the best way to offset a low GPA is to always try to get a good LSAT score and vice versa. Of course, there are limits to this, and I'll discuss that a bit later, but do know that that is really the best way to offset either a low LSAT score or a low GPA to get a high score or a high GPA to make up for the other number. So after your LSAT score and transcripts, the immediate next thing that a school sees in your CAS report is your writing sample. Over the years, I've heard rumors that these aren't actually read, but despite the rumors, these are really read by schools, and they're used to assess your basic writing skills and your analytical skills. So when thinking about how to stand out in the holistic review process, one key to having a good writing sample is to make sure that you provide arguments both for and against whatever conclusion you form while writing your writing sample. So for example, if you get a prompt that asks you to decide whether renovating a house or buying a new house is better based on the facts given, know that there technically is no right or wrong answers, and schools simply want to see how you work the facts to support your argument and whether you are also able to acknowledge and present counter arguments as well. The last thing that schools see when looking at your CAS report are your letters of recommendation. When it comes to the holistic review, these can really make a difference in helping you stand apart or woo a school. So while most law schools do prefer at least one academic letter, if you've been out of school for 3, sometimes 2 or more years, schools typically understand if you've lost touch with professors or are unable to get an academic letter. Also, know that academic letters aren't limited just to professors. You can get them from teaching assistants, academic advisors, thesis coordinators, or others that can speak on your behalf about what you are like as a student. Outside of academic letters, other kinds of letters of recommendation that you can submit include letters from advisors of any clubs or extracurricular activities you participated in, coaches, work supervisors, volunteer supervisors, co-workers, community leaders, etc. Essentially, the people that you want to avoid trying to get a letter of recommendation from are namely people like your mom's best friend, your cousin, or others that may come off as not very objective when talking about you.